Hello, welcome back to another video. This one is going to be about my new camera that I just bought, the Pentax 6.7. This is a medium format camera that shoots 120 film in the 6x7 format. On it right now I have a 105 2.4 lens, which is the shallowest aperture I believe that you can get on a medium format camera. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's somewhere around like in the 35mm equivalent of 1.1. Anyway, to get used to this camera, I wanted to go out and take some portraits of people since it is meant to be one of the best cameras in the world for portraits. With the compression of the 105 and the shallow aperture of 2.4, it creates some amazing separation from the subjects, and you can even get a slight large format look. This camera is something that I've been looking at for a while, and when I found one on eBay for a lot cheaper than you can get them here in the UK, because it was in Japan, I was like, I've got to buy that. I did have to pay a shit ton in customs fees though, so that wasn't very fun. The other day, it was the end of the first semester, and me and a few mates wanted to go out and get some photos and have a meal before we don't see each other again for quite a while. I brought my Pentax 6.7 and my Fujifilm X Pro 3 to get some street photography shots. I really wanted to get some street portraits with the Pentax 6.7 since it is just amazing at portraits. I shot some Ilford HP5 and I was at Falmouth shooting. I wanted to get many street portraits and Falmouth is a great place for that. To start off, I went to my friend Harry's uni accommodation and he has the Fujifilm X-T5. He also has the 35mm f2 weather resistant lens, same that I've got, and he also has the 16 to something, I don't know what it is. It's a very nice lens and I thought it was going to be terrible, and I used it and I was like, wow, this lens is amazing. I shot some photos on my X Pro 3 with that lens, and it's so big that it blocks up half the viewfinder, and it's so funny to look at. But I decided that I wanted to get like a few photos, just like test photos with it, so I can see what it's like, you know. After that, we walked into Falmouth. I did get some photos of some people on the street, some street portraits, something like that with my X Pro 3, because I needed to go to the shop to get the HP5. Some of these photos are just very average, some of them are quite bad. They're just like test shots to get me warmed up for the day. After getting the HP5, I was trying to find somewhere to load my camera, and on the way to the location that I thought of, I saw this person in a coffee shop with some really nice light, so I decided to snap a photo on my X Pro 3. This is probably the best photo that I've got that day on my X Pro 3, and I am absolutely in love with it. I did also get some other photos of just random people, you know, passers-by, stuff like that. They're not great, they're just test shots to get me warmed up. When I loaded my Pentax 6.7, I was trying to find some interesting people for portraits, and just about 2 minutes from where I was loading the camera, I noticed some people down in this like little beach area. It wasn't really a beach, it was just like some sand and then loads of seaweed with like two people down there. One was walking their dog and the other one was like getting the seaweed off this random stuff, and I decided to snap 2 photos of these people as they could be quite good subjects. I decided to use my Pentax 6.7 for this as I wanted to get those street portraits going, and this was a great way to warm up. I hate asking people if I can take their photo, but when I know it's going to be like a decent photo or like an interesting photo, some of that anxiety goes away. The first photo was this guy in like some very standard attire pulling seaweed off these rope things, and he said he was way too dressed up to do it, but it had to be done, so I thought it would be quite a funny photo to get of him, and it was. The second photo was of this dude with his dog. His dog was adorable and this dude looked like he'd be amazing for a photo, and like I think his dog matched his energy. It was like a proper bulldog and he was like this big dude, massive beard, sort of scary looking, but he was so nice. I think I shot this photo around f5 because I wanted that shallower depth of field, but I didn't want to go all the way down to 2.4 in case it was way too bright, since it wasn't exactly dark then, but we were in some shadow, so I thought it would be, you know, alright to go around f5. I think it was around f4 or f5. This photo ended up being a really good photo and I like it a lot, but because the HP5 and it was in shadow, it ended up being very flat. So after scanning it, I done a bit of editing and tweaking to the highlights and shadows and made it a bit more contrasty. If any of you have suggestions for film that is a bit more contrasty than HP5 but has like sort of the same latitude, I would love to hear it, since I really don't like editing film photos that much, but with HP5 I have to get the look that I like. And while it is amazing, the full editing, I would rather just get it straight out of camera and maybe do a slight bit of tweaking. After walking around Falmouth High Street, we decided to stop for some food. I got some shots on my X Pro 3 on the way, and a few of them are alright, a few of them are pretty shit. I do like one where it's this person that's out of focus, and in the background it says like Boots, like or it's like Specsavers or something, and it was like optical, blah blah blah. So it works quite well with like that person being out of focus and the Boots being in focus. I find that quite funny. After walking through town, we decided to go down to like the main harbour area. I guess that's what it is, I don't know. It's just really good for some street photos, and it did not disappoint today. I shot some more photos on my X Pro 3. A few of them I quite like. Once again, a few of them aren't great, but it is what it is. These are just like warming up still, since I have to take a lot of photos to warm up and then get like good ones. I'm not sure if everyone else is like that, but that's me. I did ask a few people for some portraits on my Pentax 6.7, but they said no, and I was just like, oh, that's fine. And I noticed this guy with 2 dogs, and one of them looked really interesting, and I asked him, I was like, oh hey, can I take a portrait of you and your dogs? And he was like, yeah, sure. I took his portrait, I love the photo, it's great. And we had a conversation about the dogs, and he's from South Africa, and he rescued one of these dogs. It's like a random mix of loads of different dogs, or whatever it is. I guess you call it a mutt, and it was adorable. It really wanted cuddles. I did have sort of a mission on that day to find some people fishing, as I did get a really nice photo of some fishermen on my Mamiya 645 that I sold. You can see the photo here. And I did see some people fishing, but I didn't really want to ask for their portraits, as they were all in a group and they looked like they were, you know, keeping to themselves. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get some candid photos of these people fishing on my X Pro 3. They're not very good. I really wish I got some better compositions, but there is one that I like, and that's this one here. This dude was messing around with his fishing pole. I do not know anything about fishing, so I don't know what he was doing. But it looked like it would make a good shot with like the fishing pole standing up and him fiddling with it, and then the lamppost in the background sort of mimicking the fishing pole. Once this area got boring and I couldn't really take any more photos of people on my X Pro 3 and there wasn't anyone else to photograph on my Pentax 6.7, we decided to just walk around Falmouth again, as it is just the best way to get some nice photos. As we walked all the way down to the bottom of the Falmouth, like High Street, I think it is, I noticed this really nice bike that was driving past, and I was like, oh, that'd be a really good photo. And then just my luck that he pulled up right next to where I was in a car park, and I went and asked for his portrait, and he said yes. He was a really nice guy, but he seemed in a rush, so I needed to take his portrait as quick as possible. After I took his portrait, Harry and Jen wandered off and disappeared, so I needed to find them, and I found them in this car park with like a bunch of graffiti, and they were taking some photos there, and it looked like it would be quite a good place to take some, you know, decent, you know, far away-ish portraits with a lot of like depth and separation. I got Harry to stand in this corner where the light was shining quite nicely, and it was like a mixture of shadow and, you know, light, and it worked quite well with the graffiti on the wall and the stuff in the background. I wish, however, I did get closer, because then that would have created more separation, and I guess it's just something to learn. Those were the last 2 photos on the roll, but I did actually load another roll, and I took some photos of Jen, and I took some photos of my family. The first one of Jen is very overexposed. I was like, you know what, I'll shoot it at 2.4 to get that really nice shallow depth of field, and it did not work well. We went back to Harry's accommodation, and we just sat there for a bit, and I was like, you know what, I want to get some proper, like, depthy portraits. So since I've already got quite a few photos of Harry that day on my X Pro 3 and my Pentax 6.7, I decided, Jen, I'm going to get some photos of you. I got 2 really nice ones in the back of Harry's accommodation. There's like a lot of depth, and I pretty much nailed focus. Not long after that, we went out and had our meal, and that was the end of the day. The next day, I decided to take some portraits of my family. My brother came round, and then shortly after, my nephew came round. So I decided to get some photos of my brother first, and then I got some photos of my nephew and my stepdad. I also did get a portrait of my mum, but I've already got a really nice one of her in the garden, as I wanted to get a photo for everyone in our garden. But since she already had her photo taken and she didn't really want to get up and go into the garden in very cold, wet weather, I decided to take a photo of her when she was sitting down. I also did get a photo of my cat, which was quite cute. I then developed the rolls at home, and I was expecting the second roll to have a massive light leak, since when I was loading the Pentax for the second time, I got really frustrated and I tried to like get the roll in, and it just sort of popped out and went on the floor. I was just like, oh no, that's gonna be destroyed now. But luckily it was not. But yeah, that's brought us to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed. The audio quality isn't great because I'm just recording on my phone, but I really couldn't be arsed setting my whole like laptop up and then having my mic here, my headphones on, and everything like that, because I'm also editing a video on my laptop of, what was it again? My top 5 film cameras of all time. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.